Have a really good think, because somebody you know could earn you a lot of money for very little effort. Think, who do you know that wants to buy a property in Spain? A colleague, a mate, someone in your family, a friend of a friend? If you know someone, go to welcome-estates.com and click the Refer a Friend link. If they buy, you'll pocket a nice chunky thank you from one of Spain's leading estate agents. T's and C's apply. All details at welcome-estates.com.
Welcome to part two. Just wait while Julian joins us any second. Here we go. Welcome to part two. Julian, George Warren, aka Julian Clary, came out and did an interview. He didn't give much away about the Saudi situation. What's your take on it all?
Sorry, late joining, Russell. Then say again, mate.
Yeah, George Warren, aka Julian McClary. Julian Clary, is it? Julian Clary. That's what he looks like, isn't it? Well, Julian, George says that he didn't really give much away, did he? He's not a blabbermouth like Eddie Hills, is he?
No.
He didn't give much away. He's a bit more sensible, isn't it? But he strikes me as some of you probably could get it up at line, but is it a bit too much of a fantasy? What do you think?
Are you talking about this big heavyweight tournament?
These 4 fights, they're going to have we're going to have 2 semis, then a bottle. It's like a round robin in it for winners and losers. 400 million, 4 fights in Saudi.
I think I know I've mentioned this before, but the challenge you've got, right? First of all, you got Tyson Fury is massively unpredictable. I think that's an element of his personality. It's part of his bipolar. Partly he's got a huge ego. You've got Anthony Joshua, who's a cash cow, whose value's dropping by the second. Still worth a hell of a lot of money, but it's dropping by the second. He looks uncomfortable in the ring these days. You've got Usyk, who's probably just so tired of being messed about. Has he got the appetite for talking about something for the next 6 to 12 months? It not happening. And then you've got Wilder, who's probably maybe not an easy person to deal with, but probably the easiest person of the 4 to actually get to sign up for something like this. So it's a difficult one, because how do you agree what each person earns? Do you have a 70-30 split for the winner, or do you have an agreed purse for the semi-finals? Who gets TV rights? Who gets intellectual property rights? Who gets all this stuff? So instead of trying to deal with 2 big egos like AJ and Fury, which they still haven't got that over the fence in the last few years, you're now dealing with 4 egos of, albeit different sized egos. I can't see it. I've said before, look, the fights we've all wanted, the 3 fights, not big heavyweight fights, nothing to do with big heavyweight fights. We've only wanted 3 fights in the past 6 years. AJ against Wilder, when both were unbeaten. AJ against Tyson Fury, when both were unbeaten. And Fury against Usyk for all the marbles, when both were unbeaten. Those 3 fights are the fights that we wanted. The fans have wanted it, boxing's wanted it, and we've needed it. We haven't been delivered one of those 3 big fights, the fights that we need. And now we're expected to believe there's going to be a 3 or 4-way tournament, and everybody's going to sign up for it, almost like a Muhammad Ali trophy style tournament, and all these guys are going to turn up, no injuries, no postponements, no fallouts, no social media crashes,
No substitutes.
and all this is going to happen in 2 semi-finals in one night, and then a final and a 3rd place on another night. Can't see it. Would I like it to happen? Absolutely. Do I think it'll happen? Not a chance. I think right now we'd settle for one of those fights, wouldn't we?
I'd settle for Usyk Fury, and just for one night and undisputed, then do
Me too. Yeah.
what you want with belts, then we know who's the man.
Yeah, and what you've also got as well, you've got 4 fighters in that group. We know who's the best fighter in Fury and Wilder. So we definitely don't want to see that. So let's imagine Fury beats Usyk, semi-final 1. And then Wilder sparks AJ. We got what's the point of rerunning the final Fury and Wilder fourth time? The last twice he's fought him I mean, the second time he nearly decapitated him, and even in the third fight he knocked him out conclusively. So what's the point of that? And what about if we end up with, by some freak, or maybe not by a freak. So let's say, for example, AJ beats Wilder. Wilder gets an injury, shoulder injury, end of the third round. AJ goes through to the final. Usyk beats Fury in the second semi-final, unpopular decision, or maybe just beats him fair and square. Do we want to see Joshua and Fury the third time? Not really, because we know what we're going to get. You see where I'm coming from? I don't know if anybody's actually thought about the likely scenarios that we might get. And it just doesn't work for me. And I don't think it'll work for the fighters. You know, they're hearing Eddie Hearn come out and said Fury's going to fight John Ruiz. Well, if Fury's going to fight Ruiz, then why doesn't AJ fight in the interim? They're scared of getting beat. There's too many ifs, whats, buts, maybes for this to happen.
Well, they're not bothered. They're out there trying to get snooker on out there, aren't they?
Yeah, it's where the cash is.
They did it in China, didn't they? So they're trying to get over
yeah.
there. Aren't Eddie knows he's burnt bridges in America. They can't do snooker over there. They don't do football anymore. Not that Leighton Orient are going to go on tour over there. So in America, so America's dead for them now. We've got Canelo, but it's one fight at a time, isn't it?
Tyson can't go to America anyway, can he?
Tyson Fury can't go to America, so they need Tyson Fury in mix. So otherwise, they wouldn't be able to sell shows, would they?
No.
I mean, if they had a tournament without Fury, I mean, this could possibly happen. You know, they could have it. Fury could spit dummy out and say he's going on a tour of England or whatever and going to be active. Fury could do that and top trump all of them and just sell Wembley out twice a year, couldn't he? If he wants.
Absolutely. And what about rematch clauses? What if the semi going to get 2 semi-finals without a rematch clause? These guys can't seem to fight without a rematch clause, and they're going to forsake that.
And what about mandatories? Ergovic.
Yeah, and Zhang. Then exactly. So all the mandatories then have they got to wait?
Ergovic and Zhang. Who's the other one? I don't know what the other one is.
We got
Wilder. Ergovic, Zhang, Wilder, and Dubois.
Yeah. So these guys got to wait another 12, 18 months, 2 years before they fight for the title.
Oh, it's Wilder at WBA now. I don't know, but look.
There's too many holes in it.
No, Wilder would be at tournament, wouldn't it? So there's Dubois, he's WBA, Zhang WBO, Ergovic IBF, WBC and BU. Because Wilder's jumping to the tournament. I don't know who's is it Ruiz?
I don't know who's behind Wilder.
Probably Ruiz, isn't it? It's probably Ruiz.
Dillian White will get elevated, honestly.
I don't know, but the way I look at it, mate, it's fantasy island stuff, isn't it, to keep us on hooks.
It's not going to happen, and they need to look at what's happening this weekend with Garcia, because that's what you call a fight, and they've managed to do that fight, haven't they? So we still get some big fights, and we still get some great fights, but we do want one heavyweight champion. You know, as I said before, there are other fights I'd prefer to watch, but that's just me. But I understand why people want to see the heavyweight champion of the world, but I just want to see a dominant heavyweight champion of the world who defends 3 to 4 times a year, like Holmes did, like Tyson did, like all these fighters did. And we're just getting, as you said, it's fantasy stuff, isn't it? It's fantasy talk. And sometimes you just think, do they just want to be a boys trip out to Dubai to just, you know, spend a few weeks out there getting the luxury 7-star treatment? Is that why they're going out there? Because there's not a lot of boxing happening right now. I mean, so Anthony Joshua going to fight 3 times this year. I mean, I nearly choked when I heard that. And so far, it's looking like once.
Well,
the dreamers, they're dreaming, aren't they? The dreamers, the part-time athletes and full-time celebrities, and that ultimately is what boxing's become.
Well, yeah, it's a bit mad, isn't it? It's a bit mad, but I don't know what to say. But if they split the belts up, would that be a good idea, Julian? You could have a semi-final for each belt, right? So you'd have 5 belts, and you'd have like 20 fighters going after 5 belts, wouldn't you? Right? What would that be? Just too much scattering them about?
I don't know how much people I mean, we say we want the unification because we'd like to see the belts
They're never
united.
going to allow us it, are they? We always get to this point, and it gets
Always.
it's been going on 20 years, this unification talk. I had hair when they were talking about it last time.
Me too. I was going to say the same thing. We've been on about this 20 odd year. 20 odd year we've been talking about this and we haven't done it. So what does that tell you?
Exactly. You know what I mean? Well, at the moment, WBO, Usyk's got belt and interim champion Zhang in it, right? Number 1 ranked Andy Ruiz. Other one, IBF, Ergovic's mandatory. Then we've got WBA. They're saying it's Dubois, but Wilder's already in position as number 1. Wilder's number 1, WBC number 2, but it can change it on any given day with any lobbying, can't it?
Yeah, it can.
So, if they want somebody in position, if they give them enough money, there you go. You get your ranking, don't you? It's called lobbying.
How it works. It's how it's always worked.
Oh, it's gone up 60 years, isn't it? But if they don't have this tournament, who's Fury going to fight? Because they can't give him a cream puff, can they?
Well, I don't care what anybody says, he's lost a hell of a lot of credibility, hasn't he, Fury? Frank can say what he wants, Fury can say what he wants. I think we all know why the fight with Usyk didn't happen, and anybody in the comments who's going to jump on Usyk and say Usyk was the one who stepped out. He stepped out because he got sick and tired of the bullshit. That's why he stepped out.
Yeah,
I can't do this anymore. I can't bend over anymore than you want me to. And he stepped away from it. The fight didn't happen because of Tyson Fury, and that's the fact. And I don't care what anybody says. So it's just a mess, isn't it? We just want a dominant heavyweight champion. And if anybody says to me Tyson Fury, and I believe Fury is the best in the world, by the way, but if anybody says he's a dominant heavyweight champion, since to be Vladimir, what was that now? 7 years ago, 2015, whatever it was. Since Tyson beat Vladimir, he's made 3 defenses. 3 defenses. That's not a dominant heavyweight champion, is it?
3 defenses since he beat Wilder.
No, since he beat Klitschko.
Who was his 3 defenses? 2 with Wilder.
One, no, the second Wilder fight.
I would count it first Wilder fight as a defense because didn't he have no belt? And we're talking about when he came back.
Actual title defenses since he beat Klitschko. So he's made.
Oh yeah.
3. Dillian White, Derek Chisora, Deontay Wilder. He's made 3 title defenses.
Since he beat Wilder.
No, since he beat Klitschko.
Oh yeah, but what belt are we saying he had though? Because he's saying he's lineal, isn't he?
Oh, you can't be lineal. You can't retire and come back and say I'm the champion. You got to win it back. If you retire and have 2 year out.
When he got belt back off Wilder, he's had who since then? Dylan White.
So he drew with Wilder. He beat Klitschko. He made no defenses, didn't he? Then he took a couple of years out, came back, a couple of knockovers, and then he drew with Wilder. So he wasn't a champion. No, that's 0 defenses. And then he beat Wilder.
Yeah.
In 7 rounds.
Yeah. You got
0 defenses.
Since he beat Klitschko, putting it like that.
Yeah,
he talks like he's been defending it since Klitschko. This lineal.
3 title defenses in 7 years. That is your legacy.
Yeah.
And 2 of those were against Dillian White and Derek Chisora.
But he can say he's been lineal all that time, can't he?
Well, then Rocky Marciano's lineal because he never got beaten. You know, he might decide to come back from the dead. It's just it don't work like that. You retire, you're retired. You can't come back and say I'm the lineal heavyweight champion of the world. You can be lineal if you're still active, and someone strips you for some ridiculous reason, then you still say I'm the champ. I haven't been beat. I'm still boxing, but you can't retire and then take 2 years out, and then the heavyweight picture fixes itself and come back and say, you're not the champion, I'm the champion, because no, you've been retired, you have to come back and take it. I don't buy this lineal nonsense. It's rubbish.
Yeah.
Rubbish. It don't mean it doesn't make sense. It don't mean anything. It's a statement of fact. Tyson Fury, and I like Fury, I like watching him, he's a good fighter. Said before, I think he's the best of a generation. he has made 3 title defenses. That's a statement of fact.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, that's the facts. Yeah,
it's a fact. Look in the history books. Encyclopedia of Boxing. He's made 3 title defenses.
Yeah. That's not GOAT material, is it?
That's what I'm saying, Russell. It's like, Tyson, Mike Tyson. I'm not a big Mike Tyson fan, but I enjoyed watching him. Tyson destroyed Trevor Berbick. He went in the HBO tournament. Mike Spinks opted out. He beat Tony Tucker. He knocked out Pinky Thomas. Sorry, he beat Tony Tucker.
James
and then he
Smith, Frank Brunel twice.
Started boom, 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 boom. It was just like he cleared everybody out. Michael Spinks obviously fought him, and he was claimed to be the lineal champion to the point I made. He never retired. He was still active after beat Jerry Cooney. Tyson went through Spinks, but this is what's called. Mike Tyson might have only been dominant from 86 to 90, but this is called dominance, isn't it? Yeah. Dominance is clearing your division out.
Yeah.
There's no question marks. Clear out, beat Usyk, beat Joshua. It might be favourites to win those fights. Beat Hrgovic. That's a dominant heavyweight champion. Yeah. You've no equal. You've got no peers. You've got no equals, and you've just beaten everybody in sight. And that's what's classed as being like Marvin Hagler was a dominant middleweight champion, wasn't he? He just smashed everybody to bits. No one could touch Marvin Hagler from 1980 to 1987. He was a dominant middleweight champion. He what was it? 11, 12, 13 title defenses. Look at the people he beat. That's dominance. Larry Holmes didn't unify, but the WBA champions kept getting beat. Holmes had already beaten some of the WBA champions like Mike Weaver, for example. But Larry Holmes was dominant. 20 title defenses from 1978 for the WBC and then the IBF until 1985. That's a dominant heavyweight champion. You're not going with this, don't you? Lennox Lewis, he'd win it. He got beat twice, but defended it. He wiped out his competition. Beat Holyfield, Tyson. He beat all the top contenders, the David Tours. He beat everybody. He was a dominant heavyweight champion. Yeah. Tyson Fury is not a dominant. Being the best heavyweight in the world doesn't make you dominant. It means you're probably the best. Tyson Fury is not a dominant heavyweight champion.
Is Usyk more dominant than Tyson Fury?
There's a good argument to say that he is. He was a dominant cruiserweight, wasn't he? He'd need to make a few more defenses for me, and I think that's why we want to see Fury and Usyk, because there's no clear-cut heavyweight champion of the world right now, is there? I think Fury's the best. I think he's the best, but if he's retired tomorrow, never mind what he tells his fans. If Tyson Fury retires tomorrow, apart from being incredibly wealthy, incredibly popular, and loved by a lot of people, can he really sleep and say, I cleaned out my division?
No.
He can't. He can't. He's got to beat Usyk. And I think it'd be nice to do the Joshua thing just for the British thing. But if he beats Usyk and then a couple more defenses, he beats a couple more dangerous fighters, I think you can say, look, I've done all I can do. Because that's generally, isn't it, when fighters who want to retire on top, they retire and say, there's no more challenges for me. I've either got old and got beat, or I've run out of challenges. And can Tyson Fury say that he has run out of challenges right now?
No, he can't, can he? Because there's people who've got to fight.
Yes, people you've got to beat to, look, there's always going to be someone else around the corner.
Vitaly Klitschko ran out, didn't he?
Yeah. Klitschko was
a dominant champion, Vitaly.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, Vitaly was, and Vladimir, was Vladimir 10-year unbeaten? Yeah. They took care of the mandatories, didn't they? They took care of the dangerous fighters out there, and they did what they did. And for 10 years, we had the domination from the Klitschkos. Naturally, they're not going to fight each other. But we had domination. We had domination from Lennox Lewis. Even when he got beat, he'd come back and he ironed out fighters in the rematch. We had domination. We've had domination all the way. If you look at the lineage of the heavyweight championship and right back to the John L. Sullivans
Ali, Fraser,
I mean,
Foreman.
Jack Johnson,
They
obviously
all dominated, didn't they?
Jess Willard. I used to be able to go through this stuff. It's become so fragmented. Jess Willard, Jack Dempsey, Gene Tunney, all the way through the lineage of heavyweight championship. We've had dominant heavyweight champions until the Klitschko was beat by Tyson, and it's splintered, and we do not have a dominant heavyweight champion right now. And you can all have your opinions, and you can all say who you think's the best and who's not the best. But, you know, I keep saying this, but it's a statement of fact. We haven't had a dominant heavyweight champion of the world. Because if you look at Tyson Fury,
since Vladimir.
Yeah, since Vladimir, because you look at Tyson Fury, again, I think he's the best in the world. How many wins over the current top 10 does Tyson Fury have?
Oh, none, is it?
He's beat Wilder.
Otto Wallin and Wilder.
Someone might turn around and say Dillian White, but he hasn't cleaned out, has he? Hasn't cleaned the division out.
Otto Wallin, Dillian White, and Wilder.
Yeah, so he's capable of doing it, but he hasn't done it. You look at Larry Holmes, and Larry Holmes has the amount of unbeaten fighters. I mean, Holmes often gets challenged by saying it wasn't the richest division, but Holmes
was active, wasn't he, Holmes?
Holmes was active, and he beat so many unbeaten fighters in Larry Holmes. You know, even when he was knocking on, you know, Witherspoon, Carl Williams, unbeaten. Both of them were unbeaten. David Bay was unbeaten. You know, Ocasio, he beat all those guys. Leroy Jones was unbeaten. He beat all those fighters who were unbeaten. He beat all the Jerry Cooney. He beat all the dangerous fighters. And he couldn't really have done any more. They tried to make the unification with Coetzee. Coetzee ended up getting beat. Negotiated himself out of it. Got beat by Greg Page. But you know what I'm saying, don't you? You know the history of the heavyweight division. But he did everything he could do until he got old, I guess, didn't he? And Mike Spinks beat him. So they either get old and get beat, or they retire like Lennox Lewis did and said, you know what? What else, like Lennox? What else could Lennox Lewis have actually done in boxing? And this is why you and I, when people say Fury's greatest of all time and he'd have beat Lennox and you're stuck in a time warp, it's nonsense. It's anybody who thinks at this, you know, we'll review Fury's career when it's finished, by the way. That's often the best way to do it. But right now, you cannot even begin to compare Tyson Fury with Lennox Lewis.
No.
You can't.
No, you can't.
That's not hating. That's not hating. This is a guy who pays 20 quid to watch Tyson Fury. I don't hate Fury.
Well, Lennox has got 14 wins over former, current, and future world champions. Fury's got 4.
Lennox had a brilliant record.
So Fury's about 10 fights then off being Lennox's equal. He's got to go 10-0 to catch Lennox, hasn't he?
Yeah.
And then he's in the mix. 10 fights.
And even though Lennox got beat twice, you know, we forgive him because he came back and he avenged those
If Fury
losses.
gets 10 wins, then he's a better fighter than Lennox. Better CV. If he gets 10
if he absolutely cleans up, as I said, beat Usyk, clean out, 3-4 times.
Fury's capable of doing it then isn't he?
Yeah. Right. Fury's definitely capable of doing it, but, you know.
Well, that's going to take him 6 years then at current rate then. Another 5-6 years.
It's going to take him a hell of a lot more than fighting once a year. It's going to take him a hell of a lot more than 6 years, isn't it?
All right, well, let's say 7 years. That'd take him to 42, wouldn't it? 41, 42 or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. With that style he's got, could he go that long? Would these young'uns catch up with Fury?
They definitely catch up with him, Russell. Definitely.
What would
I saw Jared Anderson. I was raving about Jared Anderson, but there's some good young heavyweights coming through right now. Some really good young heavyweights. And the next generation's just starting to bubble. And Tyson probably knows he's got about a 2-year window to dominate. And at the current scale and rate of big fights now, realistically, in 2 years, what is he going to do? 3 fights? 4 fights max?
Yeah. Well,
it's a shame because he's got the tools, you know, and he's got the personality. But his biggest, most dangerous opponent is himself, really, isn't it?
Do you think if things were catching up with him fitness wise, you know, when old age catching up with him, do you think he'd let on?
Well, what do they say about boxers? The boxer's the first one to know when it's not there anymore and the last one to admit it. So I don't know. We've seen greater fighters than Tyson Fury grow old in front of our eyes, haven't we? I think Floyd was such a breath of fresh air, wasn't he? He knew when to get out. He knew when it was time to go. But often they don't know when it's time to go, do they? I mean, Lennox did just. He squeaked by Vitali, didn't he? With the he was winning the fight. You know, he was going to win the fight. Sorry, but he squeaked by Vitali. But Lennox looked in the mirror, didn't he? And he said, "You know what? I'm 36. These guys are catching up to me now." And he went off. But generally, fighters often they go on too long, don't they? Look at Holmes, look at Ali, look at Joe Fraser, you know, Floyd Patterson, all of them. They're not all like Rocky Marciano and Gene Tunney and get out at the right time.
Yeah, it's a funny old game, heavyweight division, Julian, isn't it?
It's brutal, isn't it? And anybody who's watching now is mortally offended what I'm saying about Fury, and I keep repeating the same thing. I like Tyson. I always pay for a Tyson Fury fight.
He's still favourite against Usyk, isn't he?
Yeah, I think. By the way, sorry, I didn't pay for the Derek Chisora fight, but I paid for the Dillian White fight. I paid for the Wilder fights. I'll always pay for Fury fights if it's a good fight. I like him, but he's the favourite to beat Usyk. I think he beats Usyk, but just ultimately, it's a business. It's about money. We know that. It's a cliche. Boxing's about boxing's business. It's always been business. You know, it was a business from the days of Jack Dempsey and the fighters he avoided, you know, in the 20s. So it's not news, but it's just a case of you still must have an element of you that you have to look in the mirror and say, did I fight the best of my generation? If I didn't, was that down to me? Was it down to them? Was it down to the management? Was it down to because ultimately what we're seeing this weekend with Garcia and Tank is if two fighters really, really want to fight, that fight can be made. Fights can be made. And I'm wondering I don't know if Fury will be happy with himself maybe he will when he retires. He's certainly achieved more than I have.
Well, Riddick Bowe regrets not fighting Lennox Lewis.
Massive regret that, isn't it? I mean, throwing that belt in a trash can is a decision.
Gold belt, eh?
You just don't do it. It's a decision that must haunt him, not just from a money point of view. Money comes and goes, but from a legacy point of view. And Riddick Bowe's a phenomenal fighter, wasn't he? In his prime, he was a phenomenal fighter. But I know
43-1, he beat everybody.
It was brilliant, wasn't he? And Eddie Futch said he had problems with the fridge door. He couldn't keep it shut, and that was his demise. Was he liked his food? Did Riddick, didn't he?
Yeah, addictive personality.
Yeah,
and
hell of a fighter. Hell of a fighter.
He's I can't understand the word he says when I watch him on telly now.
He's gone, hasn't he? He's complete. I remember seeing the Thai boxing fight he had about 5 years ago, whatever it was. Some guy just kicking hellfire out of his legs, and you're like, oh God, out big fat old Riddick Bowe getting his legs kicked to hell by some Thai boxer, and you're like, how have you got here? How, like Primo Carnera in a wrestling ring? How have you got to this place?
Yeah. Do you ever watch, Julian, some of them old boxing footage? I watched some other day, Ali running, and there's all these stones near this lane, and they've got names of world champions on them. Do you know what I mean?
I love it. I love the old time boxing. You know, it's
Ali in his pit boots.
Just I used to running those construction boots, didn't he? And Michael Spinks did, and says that's what did his legs in. But I love all that. I love watching how it's evolved, how the technical side of boxing's evolved, and then you see a Jack Johnson and how they used to move around the ring and just how they used to hold and stuff, and holding was allowed in those days, and it was savage, wasn't it? And it was very, very primitive. And then you had fighters beyond their years who had skills and just came along, and styles beyond their years. And I love watching that stuff. I mean, my era is the late 70s and early 80s because I was a kid growing up, of course. I used to love those eras, but I like watching, I love watching Henry Armstrong, Little Perpetual Motion, Sandy Sadler, Willie Pep, just incredible sort of fights they had. Carmen Basilio, Nino Losh, Eddie Joffre. I love watching all that stuff. Yeah, it's a shame we have no footage of Harry Greb. As we know, I'd have loved to see footage of Harry Greb. And just fighters, I mean, if you look at Henry Armstrong, who I've just mentioned, who's generally considered to be the second greatest fighter of all time, Henry Armstrong held the featherweight, the lightweight, and the welterweight championship of the world at the same time. I mean, that will never be equaled, will it? So your guy who could make 9 stone 4, and they're also the welterweight champion, lightweight champion at the same time.
Well, Barney Ross, world champion at 3 different weights as well.
Barney Ross was, not simultaneously, but Barney Ross was. And you just look at guys like that, and I love reading about the just all those old time, Sam Langford, all those old time fighters, and just the incredible wars that they had.
Randolph Turpin.
Oh, Randolph Turpin. My old art teacher when I was at art college showed me a photo once of him and Randolph Turpin. They're in not the Marines, but they were in the army together. They got, Turpin was a soldier, and he showed me, and he says he used to train on camp. He'd got the barracks and stuff, and they'd like makeshift bags and stuff. And he said Randolph Turpin, he says he was a proper good guy, because he knew I was a boxer at the time with my old art teacher, and he showed me this photo of Randolph Turpin. I was like, that's actually unbelievable. That's brilliant. But these guys are legends, aren't they?
Yeah.
Absolute legends.
You know what they used to eat in them days? Like Bruce Woodcock from in Village. He's passed away now, but they used to eat haggis and potatoes.
Yeah, just protein and carbs, and they would live off certain diets, wouldn't they? And everything's changed now, hasn't it? I mean, in fact, I'm jumping now from, which is often what we do, and I've just been sent a video of the Joe Cordina against the guy he's fighting, because you mentioned the old days and the diets, and Cordina and the champion who are fighting, I think tomorrow night, they look ill. I don't know if you've seen the video of them. They're like 2 skeletons on the scales, and I was just thinking, we've gone from eating haggis and eating potatoes to Cordina and his opponent.
We all these nutrition experts and all these strength and conditioners. They all look ill, so why don't they just fight at a weight that they're healthy at and just step up a weight?
Absolutely. Bring back same day weigh-ins, and anybody says
same day weigh-ins will sort it from top to bottom. All it means is everybody steps up a weight.
Yeah, and everybody says you can't bring back a same day weigh-in. Listen,
all the rubbish.
You can, because all you have to do is you have to monitor a fighter's weight in a championship fight for 6 weeks.
It's just one day. It's just one day in the schedule of a 12-week camp.
Yeah, it's
they could do it, but they want to have all this hype and all this before and all that nonsense. They could just have a presser, couldn't they, the day before?
If you see the video of them on the scales, you wait till you see them, and you're just like, I'm surprised we don't get more injured fighters in boxing, because it's not natural to be so skeletal on the scales that a gust of wind would knock you over. Yeah. And then in 32 hours' time, they're going to be hitting each other. Tony
Bellew Stevenson, when he got on scales, you just know he were going to gallows, didn't you?
It was brittle as hell, wasn't he?
Oh, my God.
How Tony Bellew did 12.5 stone is one of life's mysteries.
And obviously put his son through torture. That's something I do admire about him.
And I will say with Tony Bellew, he definitely did it clean. Bellew was a clean athlete, wasn't he? You could just tell looking at his frame and looking at, he was a clean athlete. But yeah, how he got to 12 stone 7, and it was a matter of time, wasn't it?
He got stuck in as well at the beginning, didn't he, against Stevenson?
Good fighter, Bellew. I've said it before.
Maybe he knew he didn't have long.
Yeah, probably, because don't you? Sometimes
he will have known. He will have known. He will have.
Absolutely, and it's dangerous, isn't it? You're like, that's what we're saying about Conor Benn in the last video, about who's advising these people, and
he stepped up and never got beat as a cruiser. Oh no, he did against Usyk, didn't he?
But that's not a bad loss, is it? That's a hell of a fighter who was beating you, but it's the damage that they're doing to themselves. So that's what I would do. I'd bring back more regulations up to the weigh-in, but I'd bring back the same day weigh-in. Maybe on the Wednesday you have a check, and they have to be within a certain target depending on the weight. You have to be within 6 or 7 pounds. But You know, that's why, you know, you saw the fighters in the 70s and 80s get on the scales at 12 o'clock.
Yeah.
And then by fight time, they might have put 4 or 5 pounds on.
Yeah.
But you think about the last one, sorry, quickly, is I know we're running out of time, but I always said this about fighters who put 17, 18, 19 pound on. If you think about the principle of this, it's ludicrous, right? You're in a training camp. The last four or 5 weeks, you're really looking at weight management. The best work you want to see from your boxer, if it's an 8-week camp, is on week 6 and 7. Week 8 is weight cutting. So on week 6 and 7, if Sykes was fighting at 9 stone 4, you think about the principle, right? His best week when he's sparring, 3 weeks out and 2 weeks out, those you're looking for prime performance in the gym. He's weighing about 10 stone 1, 3 week out, and he's about 9-12, 9-13, 2 week out. That's where he is, right? So his body's an optimum performance, 7 or 8 pound above the limit, super featherweight limit. And then if you think about it, all of a sudden, you get on the scales and you hit 9.4 for about 5 seconds. You used to hit 9.4 for about 5 seconds. And then you've got these other fighters who are just glug, 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 eat. Your body's being used to performing at 10 stone. And then you get in the ring at 10.5 stone. And then they wonder why they're sluggish. And they wonder why they're lethargic. And they wonder why they're tiring down the later rounds. Because your body's not being used to carrying all that additional weight. You should be aiming to get your body right for those optimum weeks, which is the 3 weeks out and 2 weeks out.
That was putting a couple of ounces on each glove, isn't it?
Yeah, it's nuts. So you've performed in the gym at 10 stone, and then you're going to get in the ring at 10 stone 7, 10 stone 8. It's like having a little kid on your back, having a little toddler on your back and getting in the ring. It's nonsense. So these nutritional experts will happily say, I cut him right down to the weight and he put 20 pound on in the ring. Who are you kidding? Listen, Floyd never did it, did he? Floyd Mayweather never put 20 pound on.
Listen, get Carl Froch didn't. I know I always harp on about it.
I knew he wouldn't do. I bet Carl Froch never put more than 6 pound on from the weigh.
No, 5-6 pounds.
And he never faded late on, did he?
And when he went into camp, he was on weight.
Yeah, and there's a lot of Manchester fighters.
Because he did 2 weeks on his own. Ask him, he did 2 weeks on his own to knock that poundage off. So when he went into camp, everything was boxing, wasn't it?
Yep.
You know what I mean?
And that's when you lose your pace, and that's when I knew Gary was fading, because he would be dropping more weight in the last week and a half.
Do you know his last spar his last spar for Bute were Bob Ashley, 166 pound. A week to go, Bob Ashley safe. You know what I mean? And that he was on point for that spar, let me tell you.
I think we're going to get kicked out in a couple of minutes, Russell. Anyway,
you were saying, you go on, it's 2.5 minutes stuff. You were saying
it's fine. Just saying, the whole weight management thing's crucial to boxers, and that's where we keep saying that boxing's evolved, but I'm not really that sure about that. It's how fighters make the weight.
Well, the simple thing is, to all fighters who are watching this and young fighters, when you start your training camp, be on weight.
Yeah,
it's not rocket science. You're told to be on weight if you're a journeyman, aren't you? And you're waiting for a phone call to fight on night. So just
I always said to boxers,
read your contract, what you get off board, what it says.
Absolutely.
Read the bottom. I forgot, is it 15.2 or whatever paragraph? Read the bottom, and it says, "Be on weight, do your job. Don't go lifting weight and being Jack the Lad."
It's not for the coach to get the fighter ready, to get him fit. The fighter should be already fit.
There you go.
Should be already fit when he turns up in camp.
That's the one.
Right.
You've been fantastic, Julian. Have a great week.
Thank you, Russell.
God bless. Peace out.
Take care, everybody. See you later.
Well, that was Julian. And that's about it, really, boys and girls. Anybody who's interested, though, in being a promoter for Welcome Estates, you know what to do. Get in touch, porkycorner@mail.com, and somebody will be in touch and they'll send you the information. Okie dokie. It's free money. Peace out. Have a good weekend. Booyaka.
Porky's Corner is proud to be sponsored by Spartan Site Solutions. They are specialists in civil engineering and demolition contracts for the construction industry. Interested parties should visit their website or contact Porky's Corner for a referral at porkycorner@mail.com.